Good morning, students. Welcome back. So today we plan to start with a new chapter. Okay, and in terms of this chapter, we'll also be looking at different accounting standards. So these are related to revenue. Okay, so these are standards on AS7, AS9. Okay, both these standards you can say deal with the revenue recognition. So today we start with AS9 and then we'll move on to AS7 as well. Right? We can say a very important topic for any entity, not only theoretically but also practically as well. Why? Because revenue is one area which is, you can say, most important for any organization. And it's not really limited to a company. You talk about any type of entity and revenue is important. Why? Because that's how the business will work. So entire dependency is on the revenue. So that's why accounting of revenue means how should the revenue be recognized. That becomes a very important consideration for the accountants. Okay. So now, in relation to AS9 and in relation to revenue recognition, there are a couple of standards as we just discussed. So one is AS7, other one is AS9. Now let's try to understand as to what do they cover. Okay, what do they deal with? Yeah, just a minute. So now if you talk about revenue recognition, so there are two standards, AS7 or we can say when it comes to the construction contracts. Okay, either way we can understand this. When it comes to the construction contracts, so which standard will become relevant? AS7, right? And for anything other than construction contract, which standard will become applicable, or you can say will be the relevant standard? AS9. Yeah. Okay. So that means except for the construction contracts, where do you go? AS9. And when it comes to the construction contracts only, means when the entity will have some construction contract, or you can say entity is a contractor and they need to check how do they recognize revenue. That is where they go to AS7. Yeah. Now, in this AS9, there could be different types of arrangements, different types of contracts, you can say. It could be related to sale of goods. It could be related to rendering of services. Yeah. It could be related to both of them. Means an entity is also selling goods along with the services. Okay. Further, this standard also talks about interest income, royalty income, and dividend income. Okay, so these three types of income are also dealt by AS9 only. Yeah, so they are all covered by AS9. Certain aspects which are excluded, I think we have already discussed. Construction contract, why? Because that is covered by AS7. Lease, because there's a separate standard on leases. Insurance, not covered by any standard. Government grants, there's a separate standard on leases. Okay, so these you can say are some of the scope exclusions. Otherwise, all the types of contracts that the entity will have, they will fall within the purview of AS9. Right? Clear? So this was just to give you a perspective as to how to deal with some of the requirements related to the revenue. Now let's look at some small examples with the help of which we'll just try to understand these scope exclusions, just to give you some more clarity. Realized gains from disposal of PPE, unrealized gains resulting from holding of non-current assets, for example, revaluation of PPE. Now, in both the cases, there's a gain. So, where do you take the gain? Can you tell me? Where do you record the gain? Income? Income only, correct? And when it comes to income, so in the P&L, you will have revenue. Yeah, so this broad head is revenue. Under the revenue, you will record sale of goods or services, any sort of operating income or other income as well. But you can say the larger head or the main head happens to be what? Revenue only. Okay. So now in this case, even though there is a gain from sale of PPE, unrealized gain or realized gain, where does it come from? Can you tell me which standard deals with this? Quickly, over to you. I'm sure you have covered PPE. So can you tell me which standard deals with this? Over to you quickly. Yes, which standard deals with this? Very good. Asta, Rohan, Kirti, Chandeep, they are saying it's AS10. Same as the same answer. Okay. So that's why you need to understand that there are certain types of income which are covered by other standards. So for those incomes, you don't come to AS9, right? Okay. Now, similarly, if we look at realized or unrealized gain resulting from changes in foreign exchange rates. So this is one thing that we discussed, that if let's suppose there's a foreign exchange rate and subsequently there's a change. Okay, when you realize the asset, you settle the liability, or in case restatement is required. So that may again result into a gain. Okay, that may be realized or unrealized in both the cases. Which standard you refer? Tell me, which standard do you refer? Quickly. Great. Soumya, Rohan, they are saying AS11. Very good. Vishal has the same answer. Realized gains from the discharge of an obligation at less than its carrying amount. So let's suppose there's a liability. Okay. Now a part of the liability is paid and the other part is not paid. So what do? When you have a creditor to whom you will not make the full payment, so you'll write back the creditor. Yes or no? You'll write back the creditor. So that will result into an income. Okay. So there again, you don't come to AS9 for that. Right? Clear? Okay. Now, moving further. Let's look at the definition of revenue. Now, what is revenue? Standard says revenue is the gross inflow of cash, receivables, or other consideration arising in the ordinary activities of the enterprise. Now, what does it mean? Say, for example, an entity has a business of selling furniture. Okay. Now, in this case, when the furniture is sold, yeah, this is the core activity, or you can say the normal course of business of the entity. So that's what you call as sale or revenue. Similarly, if let's suppose there's a company which is providing security services. Okay. So in such a case, the contracts for those security arrangements with different parties. What do you call them as? Sales contracts. Okay. Yeah. In this case, please understand it is very important, first of all, to understand the nature of the business of the end, because only then you will get to know what are the ordinary activities of an entity or not. Yes or no? Yeah. And here again, please remember that it could be related to a sale of goods. It could be related to rendering of services. Yeah. Both of them are covered by this tender. Further, in this case, when it comes to the revenue recognition, generally there is a confusion. Now, what is the confusion? Generally, we think that if the cash is received, by cash we mean to say bank balance also, means cash is not only the hard currency, cash also includes bank. Okay. So we think that if the cash is received, then the revenue can be recognized. Or if the cash is not received, revenue will not be recognized, which is not correct. So we'll talk about it. Okay. As to why this is really relevant. Yeah. For the time being, you can just also make a note of this point, that we are mandated to follow accrual basis of accounting, not cash basis. Okay. So therefore, when it comes to cash receipt, it doesn't really matter. Why? Because for accrual basis, whether the cash is received or not, doesn't matter. Yes or no? Yeah. Now, in this case, another very important point. Okay. And over which generally there is a confusion also. Now, this is in relation to, you can say, revenue recognition only. Okay. Now, in this case, standard says that if there are sales within the company, now please understand, if there are sales within the company, okay, then you will not call it as a sale, or you will not call it as a revenue recognition as per AS9. Now, what does it mean? Let's take an example. Huh? Say there is a company A Limited. It has got 3 branches. Say branch 1, branch 2, then you have branch 3. Okay. Now, during the year, branch 1 has sold goods worth of 50 crore to branch 2. Branch 2 has sold goods worth of 70 crore to branch 3. Okay. And branch 3 has also sold goods worth of 95 crore to the customers outside the company. Okay, so let me just say that this is outside the company. Right? In this case, if you look at the total sales number from branch 1 to branch 2, branch 2 to branch 3, branch 3 to the customers outside the company. So what will be the total? Can you tell me what is the total? Over to you. So if you take a total of these 3, what do you get? 120 plus 95. 215 crore. Yes. Now, in this case, a question arises that should this company record sales Means should this company recognize sales amounting to 215 crore or 95 crore? So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Rohan says it should be 95. Almaz, Somya. Yeah. Okay. So now this is what you need to remember, that in this case, sale which is from B1 to B2. Now sale means B1 has raised an invoice to B2. B2 has raised an invoice to B3. That will not be considered as revenue for the purposes of AS9. Why? Because revenue is only the part which is generated from outside the company. Okay. Otherwise, company can keep rotating the inventory within the branches and make its turnover as say 2000 crore. But will that be appropriate? Answer is no. Okay. So that's why in this case, what should be the revenue? 95 crore. Okay. So any inter-divisional transfers. Inter-divisional means any branches, anything which is within the company. You will have to just ignore that, eliminate that. Okay. And that's how you need to look at the overall revenue. Clear? That's how you will be looking at the overall revenue. Clear? Clear on this? Yeah. Any questions, any doubts so far? If you have, please let me know. Tell me quickly. Any questions, any doubts if you have so far, please let me know. Yes, over to you. Any questions so far? Okay, Vishal doesn't have any questions. Yeah, all clear? Yeah, so this standard is quite simple. The only point is that because this is related to revenue, so that's why it's very, very important. She was asking, sir, is the total sale of goods called revenue? Yes, sale or revenue, you can say these are terms which are used uh, quite commonly, okay, as same thing. Okay. Now, what we can do is we can just look at one example, one small example. So I'll just move on to your study material. Just pick up one small example. Okay, again, now in this case, DL Limited, a pharma company, has been conducting research on new medicine since last 2 years to increase the immunity levels of people consuming it without any side effects. Okay, so research is going. During the year, it decides to sell the outcome of the research undertaken so far. Research is not completed. So whatever is the outcome, it plans to sell so far to another competitor, GH Limited, for 50 crore. Okay. DL has already incurred 30 crore on the ongoing research. Okay. So far, the cost on the research is 30. In the above example, sale of the research findings does not represent an increase in revenue. Why? Because DL Limited's business is not to sell these research findings in the ordinary course of business. Okay. So therefore, if the company will get 50 crore from GH Limited, will that not be recorded? The answer is no, it will be recorded, but that will not be considered as revenue. So what do you call it as? Other income. Why? Because this is not the main business activity. This is not the ordinary business activity. Clear? Next, if you look at example 1, entity XY sells a machine. Okay, this is being used at its factory at a price of 2 lakhs. So this machine was getting depreciated. So in the books, it is appearing at 1.8 lakhs. Now in this case, sale of the machine doesn't increase the revenue. Okay, so if you sell any item of PPE, can we say it's the ordinary course of business activity? Tell me, can we say that? Answer is no. So that's why here again, the gain that you get 20,000 will definitely be recorded as income, but that will be other income. That will not be sale, or that will not be revenue for the company. Clear? Clear on this? All right. Now, next example. ST Limited is a real estate developer and a builder. Okay. It is into the business of buying and selling properties. So it's into real estate. So that's why this is the normal course of business. In X1, ST Limited purchased a unit of land for 150 crore. Okay. It sold off that land after a few months at a price of 240 crore. In the above case, sale of a land, you should not be thinking that land is a PPE. Okay, so generally, what do you think? Land, building, these are PPE. So that's why it should not be revenue. No. In this case, because the nature of the business of the entity is a real estate. So land for this company is what? Inventory. Land is not PPE, inventory. So that's why when the company will sell land, what do you call it as? Revenue. Yes or no? Yeah. So this will be called as revenue. Clear? Clear on this? Okay. Now, moving further. Now the standard talks about criteria for revenue recognition. Okay. So let's talk about the criteria for revenue recognition when it comes to sale of goods. Okay. So we can say broadly there are two things which are required to be looked at. First, all significant risk and rewards should be transferred to the buyer. Transferred to the buyer. Number one. Number two, no significant uncertainty exists regarding the amount of consideration that will be derived from the sale of goods. So now, let's try to pick a few examples and we'll just try to discuss this with the help of those examples. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of risk and reward? What is the meaning of no significant uncertainty exists? Okay, so all of these things, let's discuss this. Let's suppose company has a manufacturing of some products. Okay, now in this case, say company has entered into a contract with another company B Limited. Okay, and the contract is in respect of sale of goods. So we are talking about a contract. Okay, it can be a contract, PO, or agreement, right? Or it could be maybe an understanding. So it's not necessarily that there has to be a legal agreement. It could be an understanding between two parties. So it could be any type of arrangement between these two. Yeah. Now, when it comes to revenue recognition, now this is again very important, that when it comes to the revenue recognition, important part is to understand the terms and conditions which both these parties have agreed. Okay. So whatever are the terms and conditions between these two parties, that is going to be important for us. For example, say there is an arrangement between A and B. Now, example number 1. Now, as per this arrangement, what will happen? A Limited will be required to dispatch the goods. Okay. So let's suppose today is 11th June 2025. So that is when A Limited has dispatched the goods. Okay. So that is when you find this dispatch, right? Now in this case, let's suppose after dispatch of goods, dispatch means from the factory of A Limited, goods have moved on 11th June. But let's suppose there's a period of transit. Okay, it will take 2 to 3 days. So let's suppose it will take 3 days for the goods to reach location of B Limited. Yeah. Now, at one place, if you look at A Limited, A Limited doesn't have the goods on 11th June. Yes or no? So if you look at A Limited, does it have physical possession of the goods? Tell me. Answer is no. After 11th June, A Limited doesn't have the physical possession anymore. Correct? And similarly, if you look at B Limited, B Limited will not get the custody. B Limited will also be not receiving these goods up to 14th of June. So during this period, now the question arises, who will be responsible for these goods? Because A may say, I have dispatched the goods. B may say, I have not received the goods. Yes or no? Yes or no? So in this case, what do you do? That is where you need to look at the terms and conditions of the arrangement. Okay, that is where the terms and conditions become important. And on the basis of those terms and conditions, revenue will have to be recognized. Now, this is very important. On the basis of those terms and conditions, revenue will have to be recognized. For example, if A and B have agreed that A will only be responsible for dispatch. Okay, so what is the responsibility of A? To dispatch. During the transit, if the goods are lost, okay, anything happens to the goods, who will be responsible? B. In such a case, what do you call it as? Transfer of significant risk and reward to B has taken place on 11th June itself. So in such a case, when will A Limited recognize revenue? Tell me. When will A Limited recognize revenue? In such a case, quickly, 11th June. Very good. Okay, Ishan, Devu, they have the same answer, right? So in such a case, A Limited will recognize revenue on 11th June. But let's suppose in their contract it is written that A Limited will be required to deliver the goods, number one, and till the time goods are not delivered at the premises of B, A will be responsible. Now what has happened? Now, during this period of 3 days, can we say that B Limited has got the significant risks and rewards attached to the goods? Tell me, can we say that? Will it be correct to say that? Answer is no. That will be incorrect. Okay, why? Because that significant risk and reward in relation to these goods continues to remain with A Limited. A Limited. Okay, now in this case, a question may arise that when should A Limited recognize revenue? Tell me, in this case, when should A Limited recognize revenue? Over to you. Great. Tanisha says 14th June. Yeah, I think same is the response from Almas. So let's suppose there is another query on this. Okay. So one may say that, okay, we can recognize the revenue on 14th June, right? As far as A Limited is concerned. But what if A Limited has generated an invoice? So whenever the goods are dispatched, okay, I'm just telling you practically. So what will happen? For dispatching the goods, invoice will have to be generated. Okay, so that's number one. Invoice means the sale invoice. And these days, the accounting packages which any entity will have. So what will happen? The moment the sales invoice is generated, accounting entry for revenue will automatically get recorded in the system. Okay, so these days we do not follow this manual accounting. All of these accounting entries we have been discussing, that is for our conceptual understanding. But that's not how the systems work today. Okay, so the invoice will be generated and automatically the entry for revenue will be passed. So now in this case, do you still think it will be appropriate to recognize revenue on 14th June and not on 11th June? Tell me. Tell me. Do you still think revenue will be recognized on 14th and not 11th? Tanisha says no. So what is your thought then? In such a case, when do you recognize revenue? Tell me, in such a case, when do you recognize revenue? Do you recognize revenue on 11th or 14th? Over to you. Rohan says we should recognize revenue on the date invoice is raised. Now that is the biggest problem. And that is what you need to understand. See, when it comes to revenue recognition, what is the criteria you'll follow? AS9. Yes or no? So how do you recognize revenue? What will become the basis of your accounting standard? In this accounting standard, we discussed that for revenue recognition, what do you check? Transfer of risk and reward. Did we discuss, or do you think accounting standard gives you a criteria that the moment the invoice is generated, sale should be recognized? Did we discuss any such criteria? No. Then why are you applying those criterias which are not there in AS9? Tell me, where does it come from? Does it come from accounting standard? If no, then how can you use that? Okay. So therefore, please understand, if let's suppose invoice is generated on 11th June, if let's suppose payment is received on 11th June, or any other thing happens on 11th June, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If the company says my accounting system, my ERP package is such that the entry gets passed automatically on 11th June, then does it mean that the accounting standard or the requirement of accounting standard will be changed? No. Revenue recognition has to be based on criteria given by AS9. Okay. And as per which, what did we discuss? Revenue should be recognized on 14th. Okay. Revenue should be recognized on 14th. Clear? So that's how company will have to follow the requirements. Clear on this? Everyone clear? Yeah. Now, another point, again, linked to the same thing. Now, see, generally, I've seen generally it's a mistake. I'm not saying theoretically, but I'm just trying to explain you the practical aspects attached to this. Generally, there's a thought that the moment the payment is received, the revenue should be recognized. Okay, so now let's suppose in the given case, A and B enter into a contract, say on 5th of June. Okay, so that's when they finalize their contract. 11th of June is the date when the goods will be dispatched. Okay, so this is the date when the agreement is signed, right? And this is the date of delivery date. Now, as per the criteria, let's suppose significant risk and reward will take place on 14th June. Okay, now, many a times what may happen is that the entity or the vendor may ask for some advance from the customer. Okay, many a times there are some large projects. So the company may need funds. So the company may say that, okay, I'll execute this project for you, but I need funds. Okay, so I'll not wait for a long period of time that I'll deliver the goods, I'll render the services, I'll complete the project, and then I'll receive money. No. In such cases, customer will give the money in advance. Sometimes it is 10% advance, sometimes it is 5%, sometimes it is 100% also. Okay, let's assume 100% advance is received. Okay, sometimes it happens like this. For example, when you purchase goods online, do you receive the goods immediately? Tell me. Do you receive the goods immediately? No. So it may take some time, 2 to 3 days, at times a week for you to receive the goods. Yes or no? But you make the payment upfront. So in a way, you have paid the amount in advance. Yes or no? So you have paid the amount in advance in such a case. Correct? Now in this case, the question arises that because the company has received this money in advance on 5th June, so should the revenue be recognized on 5th of June? What do you think? What do you think? Should the revenue be recognized on 5th of June? Devu says no. Okay, why? Because if you follow this criteria, then what is it? Cash basis. Then in a way you are moving to cash basis of accounting, which is not correct. Okay, which is not correct. Clear? Right? Okay. Yeah. Another point that if let's suppose money is received on 5th of June, then what is the accounting entry A Limited will pass? Can you tell me? So what is the accounting entry A Limited will pass? Any thoughts? Bank debit. Okay, whatever is the money. To. So what will be the accounting entry? Very good. Devu, Charandeep, Shiv, they have answered this. To advance from customer. And this advance from customer is nothing but a liability. Okay, so it's a liability. Yeah. When the revenue recognition criteria will be met, okay, on 14th of June. So what do? You will move this advance to revenue. Okay, so on 14th of June, so what will be the accounting entry? Advance from customer debit to sale or revenue. Clear? Yeah. Very good. I can see responses coming from Tanisha, Chirandeep, Shiv. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, similar to this criteria of revenue recognition that we have, okay. So this was broadly about the goods. Now, similar to this is the revenue recognition criteria that you will have for services as well. Okay, for services, you will have the similar criteria. The only point is that unlike goods, which you dispatch and are received immediately or maybe in few days, services are rendered over a period of time. Okay, services will involve a period of time. So that's not something immediate in most of the cases. Yes or no? Yeah. So services will require a period of time. So that's why in case of services, there are two ways you can consider the revenue recognition. First, you can say that revenue can be recognized when the contract is completed. Okay, which means that let's suppose contract is for a period of 6 months. So after 6 months, revenue will be recognized. Okay, Prem, I'll come to your query. After 6 months, revenue will be recognized. Or in some of the cases, it could be based on percentage of work completion, which is nothing but percentage completion method, which we are going to cover in more detail under AS7. Now, what does it mean? That as and when the work is getting completed, revenue will be recognized. So you'll not wait for 6 months to recognize revenue. Okay, every month you will be recognizing revenue. Yeah. Now the question arises that how do we know whether we need to apply this completed contract or percentage completion? There again, please remember, for revenue to be recognized, every time what do you need to check? Terms and conditions of the contract. Okay, so all of this will be dependent on what? Terms and conditions between the buyer and seller. Okay, so how will you decide it? How will you get to know about it? On the basis of the arrangement between these two, always. Okay, so that's how you'll have to look into it. Clear? So I understand Prem has a query. Yes, Prem, please go ahead. What's your query? Please pick up. Yes, Prem, over to you. What's your query? You can just raise hands, pick up. Prem, quickly,
Hello,
over
good
to
morning,
you.
sir.
Good morning, Prem.
Sir, I want to know, sir, how the risk and rewards are getting transferred in case of sale of good.
See, that you'll have to find out on the basis of terms and conditions. So if you go back to our example, okay. So if you look at this example that we discussed, in this case, if you say that the arrangement between A and B is what? That once the goods are dispatched by A Limited, A will not be responsible for the goods. B will be responsible. So what does it mean? That any risk which is attached to the goods, who is bearing that? B. Any reward which is related to the GAT, that is again with B.
The
Okay, so that's why you will say that on 11th June, A has transferred the risk and reward to B. But how do you get to know about it? Once you
arrangement
understand the
agreement.
arrangement between these two. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay, so every time that will be based on the arrangement between two parties for everything. And that's where I'm saying that this part is going to be the most important. So that is what you need to always check. What is the arrangement between these two parties?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure. All right. Anyone else? Any questions on this? Then we'll pick a few examples also. Any questions if you have? Over to you. No questions? Sure. Rohan is asking about the second criteria. So I couldn't understand. What is the meaning? Rohan, please go ahead. What is your question? Yes, Rohan, please pick up.
So the first criteria, you said that all significant risk and reward of ownership should have been transferred to the
Right,
buyer. And second, you said that no significant uncertainty exists regarding the amount of consideration.
right.
What about that?
What about means?
Sir, means second criteria you did not explain.
No, so second criteria is self-explanatory, but let me just explain this to you. Okay. Now, it says that when you are selling the goods, let me just go back to the same example between A and B. Now, say 11th June is when A has to recognize revenue. Why? Because significant risk and rewards have got transferred. Standard says on this date, you also need to check that there should not be any uncertainty in relation to receipt. See, generally, practically, if you look at the arrangement between these two parties, they will not enter into this contract, or maybe if they enter into the contract, they will not execute the transaction if there is uncertainty. Yes or no? But what does it mean? That let's suppose goods worth of rupees 20 lakhs are transferred. Okay. So A should be assured that B will pay 20 lakhs. Okay. A should be assured about it. Clear? If that sort of assurance is available to A, and it's a negative insurance. So if you read the language, it says no significant uncertainty exists. It doesn't say significant certainty. Okay. Now, in this case, standard is not saying that there should be significant certainty. Standard says significant uncertainty should not be there. Right? So it's a negative language which they have used. Yeah. Which is more about just getting, sort of comfortable, but not about 100% sure. Okay. That this money is expected, or you can say there are good chances that B will pay this amount. Right? And similar to this, there is also a third condition. So by the conditions which are put down, so we can also look at the third condition. It says seller of the goods has transferred to the buyer property in the goods. Okay. So these are quite understood. I think the most important element and the most tricky element, which every time will be the deciding factor, will be the significant risk and reward. Otherwise, remaining two you will generally be able to understand. Huh? Okay, clear, Ron?
Sir, suppose there is means whenever the agreement is entered into, so there will be always no significant uncertainty, no?
Practically, yes. Otherwise, why will they enter into an agreement? Okay, but
Yes.
if let's suppose anywhere in the question it is specified, then you'll have to go by it.
Okay.
Okay,
And in case where the advance has been received, at that time also no significant uncertainty exists.
then I think that's quite understood, isn't it? When
Yes.
let's suppose A has already received 20 lakhs, say on 5th June. So do you think there will be any uncertainty? Tell me.
No, sir.
Yeah, so that's quite logical, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's how you'll have to go about it.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any more questions on this? Jayendra is asking, sale of machinery is a capital receipt. See, capital receipt doesn't mean that you'll capital receipt over there means that it's not something which is a revenue. Of course, if you sell any item which is capital in nature and you generate profit, so that has to go to P&L only. Otherwise, where will you take it? You tell me. Yes or no? Yeah. So the context you need to understand. Ishan is asking, sir, the provision for doubtful debts is recorded due to uncertainty. Yes. And that's not only about uncertainty, that's also based on expectation at times. Yes, so it's a mixture of those two things. Clear? But that happens subsequent to the revenue recognition. Okay, that is again very important. Let's suppose you recognize revenue as 20 lakhs and say after few months you understand that B will not pay 5 lakhs, B will only pay 15 lakhs. So that is where you create a provision. Okay, that is where you create the provision. Clear? Yeah. Okay, then I think Sunil, you have some point. I think your query is not clear. Maybe you're just trying to ask something. Anyone else? Any more questions on this? No? Sure? Everyone clear? All right, so let's look at some questions now. Okay. AB sells goods to CD on 1st March X1. CD is having significant cash flows issues since the last few months. However, it is trying to raise funding through bank loan to be able to run its operations in future. On 5th May X1, CD is able to seek the funding and is expected to be able to pay for the goods in future. At this time of sale, it is difficult for AB to ascertain whether it will be able to collect the amount from CD due to poor financial conditions. Explain how should AB recognize revenue? Over to you. How should AB recognize revenue on 1st March? Over to you. Quickly. Please don't look at the solution. Try to answer this on your own. How should AB recognize revenue on 1st March? Quickly, how should AB recognize revenue? I think we just discussed this. Tell me quickly. Very good. Chirandeep says revenue cannot be recognized on 1st of March. Yes. So if you look at these two parties, okay, so on 1st of March, we can't say about this certainty as far as collection. So therefore, on 1st of March, can AB recognize revenue? Answer is no. Answer is no. Yeah. So AB can recognize revenue only on 5th of May when AB will say that there is no significant uncertainty as regards the collection. Okay. Yeah. So this revenue will have to wait till 5th of May. Clear? Everyone clear? All right. So let's look at one more example. All right. So I think Virender is clear. Great. AB sells goods to CD on 1st January X1 for rupees 2 lakhs. After the sale was made, CD is having significant cash flows issues. It is trying to raise funding through the bank to run its operations. However, it is unable to do so and has gone under liquidation on 15th of March X1. At the time of sale, there was no reason for AB to believe that CD will not be able to pay this amount. So in this case, how should AB recognize revenue on 1st of January? Over to you. How should AB recognize revenue on 1st of January? Quickly, what are your thoughts on this? How should the revenue be recognized by AB on 1st of January? Quickly. Okay, so Devu says yes, it should be recognized. Charandeep says yes, it can be recorded. What about others? Quickly, everyone. Okay, Almas says revenue will be recognized because at that point of time there was no significant uncertainty. Ishan has got the same answer. So that's why on 1st of January, what is the accounting entry AB will pass? Debtor debit to sales 2 lakhs. Yes or no? On 1st of January, AB will say debtor debit to sales. Correct? Now, subsequent to 1st of January, there's a problem. Okay, as regards this receivable, right? On 15th June, debtor has gone into liquidation. So that's why this has become bad debt. That's why this has become bad debt. Yes or no? So that's why bad debts will have to be recognized on 15th of March, right? Because the money will not be collected. Yeah. But in this case, please try to understand. In this case, when the sales were made, at that point of time, there was absolutely no problem. If this problem about non-collection from CD would have been known at the time of sale, then the revenue would not have been recognized. Okay, because in such a case, that will be inappropriate because at one place you are recording income, after some time you are reversing the income. In a way, yeah, if you create a bad debt, that is nothing but a reversal of income, or you can say booking of expense. Okay, so that's why standard says you should not record the income at the first place. Okay, if the clarity is not there. Yeah, so that's how you should go about it. Clear? Clear on this? Shiv is asking, sir, please explain it through example. So this is example only. Yeah? Shiv, can you please explain your query? I think this is an example in itself. So what do you mean by example? Shiv, what's your question? Please pick up fast. Yes, Shiv, over to you. Quickly, huh? Over to you. Shiv, if you can just speak up, explain your query. Yeah, so I can understand your confusion, but if you don't explain, so how do we get to know? Please pick up fast, huh?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Shiv.
Sir, I have little bit confusion regarding date.
Okay, so
So,
please explain. What is the confusion, huh? So tell me, what
when
is the
goods,
confusion, huh? Waiting for you.
when
Please
go,
pick up fast.
sir, when goods are sold on 1st January, then why we should book on 15 March?
I can't understand. What is your query? You're saying when goods sold on 1st January, why
Yes.
why 15th March means? What is your question? I am not clear on your question. Huh? Quickly, huh, Shiv, you're there. Please explain fast.
Just typing.
Shiv, please speak up fast, huh? What happened? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
So please pick up fast. What's the confusion? I can see you writing when you are there. Why don't you speak up fast? Shiv, if you don't want to speak up?
Yes, sir. I have little bit cold, sir. That's why I'm unable to say too much.
No worries. So if you can just elaborate on your query. So, okay, please write down your query in detail. If you have called, I think if you are here, you can just quickly speak. Yeah. Because I'm not clear on your query. Quickly, if you can just speak. So you're saying when we sold on 1st January, then why did we 15th March? So what is this meaning of what? Why did we 15th March? I'm not clear. Are you saying that why did we create a provision on 15th March? Is that the question?
Yes.
See, we create a provision on 15th March because we have a receivable. So if there is a receivable against which you are not able to collect the money, will you create a provision or not? Tell me.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why for this receivable of 2 lakhs, when the company gets to know that it will not be able to collect the money, so that's why it's creating a provision. On 1st January, this was not known to the company. Okay, so you may have a question that, sir, on 1st January, why did this company record a receivable? Because at that time, there was no such problem. After that, the problem arose. Okay, and that's why to deal with that, what did the company do? Company created a provision, or you can say company wrote off the receivable. Clear? So you're clear on this now?
Okay, sir.
Okay, very good. Now, moving further. Okay, so now what we will try to do is we'll just try to discuss some more situations. Okay, and in all of those situations, we'll just try to understand as to when the revenue should be recognized. Please remember that the criteria or you can say the basis for revenue recognition will always be the same. Significant risk and reward. Yeah, so that you should not forget. So conceptually, nothing is going to change. The only thing is now we are going to pick up different types of scenarios. And in those scenarios, we'll just try to discuss how should the revenue be recognized. Okay. Now, one scenario could be the one wherein the buyer may purchase goods and buyer may request the seller to hold the goods on the behalf of buyer. So let's suppose buyer doesn't have the premises or maybe he doesn't have the storage capacity. So what did he do? He bought the goods, but he asked the seller that please keep the goods with you. I'll pick up, I'll take the physical delivery as and when I'll require. Okay. Now, in this case, the question arises, when should the revenue be recognized? Okay, so let me just put down some dates to discuss this. Say on 11th June, A sold goods to B. Okay, so goods are sold on 11th June, right? But B has not taken. If you look at the terms and conditions, risk and reward has got transferred to B on 11th June. But physically, goods continue to lie with A. Okay, physically goods continue to lie with A. Why? Because B has requested A that you keep the goods with you. Now in this case, we need to find out whether the revenue should be recognized or not, or we should also check whether the risk and reward have got transferred to B or not. Okay, so in this case, what should happen? If let's suppose this is the premises of A. Yeah. In this premises, if let's suppose these are the goods of A. So this is inventory, right? So the standard says that inventory of B should be kept separate. That's one. Okay. Kept separate means in a way it should be identified. It should not be mixed up with the inventory of A. Why? Because the goods are physically there. Further, this delivery which B has not taken, or you can say which B is trying to delay, should be at the request of B. So let's suppose B is saying I'll take the delivery on 30th June. Okay. So this delay should be at the request of B. Third, on 11th June, A should be ready for the delivery. Ready doesn't mean that A should deliver. Of course, A will not be able to deliver because B has requested for the same. But if let's suppose it's required, A should be in a situation that yes, I can deliver it today. Okay, I can deliver it today. Yeah. So if all of these, you can say, sort of conditions are fulfilled, that's when A can say the risk and reward has got transferred to B on 11th June itself. Yeah, even though inventory of B is lying with A, even though this inventory of B will be picked up by B on 30th June, still, because the significant risk and reward has got transferred. So that's why when will A recognize revenue? On 11th June. Now, let's take up one example. XY Limited sells goods worth 50 lakhs on 20th Feb X1 to AB Limited. AB Limited is facing storage capacity constraints at their warehouse. AB Limited therefore instructs XY to hold the goods at warehouse of XY and arrange for delivery on 15th March. Means almost after a month. Rewards associated with the sold goods are deemed transferred to AB. Therefore, in this scenario, this delay in delivery, which is at the request of AB, yeah, and because we can say that it's a transfer of risk and reward to AB. So that's why when should XY recognize revenue? On 15th March or 20th Feb? Tell me, when should when should XY recognize revenue? 20th Feb, right? 20th Feb. Soumya, Shiv, they are all saying 20th Feb. Why? Because if you look at some of these criterias, okay, which are all again related to transfer of risk and reward, you should not think, but sir, these are some more criterias. No, all of these you can say are the kind of indicators to establish transfer of risk and reward. See, the concept will always remain same. So please remember, the concept of transfer of risk and reward is only one concept. All of these situations that we are going to cover, maybe with the help of different examples, they will all be requiring you to get on to the same concept of significant risk and reward transfer. Clear? Everyone clear on this? Any questions? Any doubts so far? Over to you. Any questions? Any doubts? Quickly. Then we'll take a break. Okay, Tanisha is clear. I'm just hoping this. Okay, I think Shiv has got query. Yes, Shiv. Yes, Shiv. Please go ahead.
Sir, if any uncertain situation will come, like fire and earthquake, and then goods will be damaged,
Right.
then what will we do?
What we will do? Who is we here? XY or AB?
XY, sir.
So XY will do nothing. Why? Because XY will not be responsible for that. XY has already sold that. XY was holding all of those goods on behalf of AB. Okay. So in relation to goods, if let's suppose those are damaged, so AB should be aware of that risk. And that's why there should be an insurance in place for that. Yeah. So as far as that risk is concerned, that is with AB. And that's why you're saying transfer of significant risk and reward.
Yes.
Yes or no? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Clear?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Great. I think Charandeep is trying to relate this to previous concept. Very good. Ishan, yes, please go ahead. What is your query? Ishan, what's your query?
So I just want to ask, like, there are some conditions given in the first, which you taught, like, right, no delivery in delayed buyer due
Right,
to request. So, like, there are some conditions.
right.
So each such transaction will have some conditions, or some the specific that are given in the book will only have.
No, so each situation may have different conditions, but all of those conditions are taking you to the same concept, and that is the transfer of risk and reward. Yeah. Now, as regards these specific situations that we are going to cover, if your question is that, sir, how do we get to know about these specific conditions related to the specific situation? So those are available in the book itself. And these are not too many, only for one or two areas you'll get this. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Then I think Rohan, you have a query? Yes, Rohan, what's your query? Rohan, over to you quickly.
Sir, here AB Limited will accept the billing on the 11 June, na?
Obviously,
Okay, sir.
obviously. What is the meaning of billing? That I can't understand. And what is the relevance of billing? That again I can't understand.
Sir, in the heading, it is written.
Heading it is written. What is the meaning of heading? Which heading you are looking at?
Sir, this page heading which you have opened.
Okay, this page. Okay, just a minute. So this page, I am on the top of this page. Conditions for sale of goods. Delivery is delayed and buyer takes title and accepts billing. Yeah, so billing means the invoice. That's it. Or you can say billing in the context of the goods is referred over here. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else? No further questions? Then I think we can take a break. Yeah. Okay. Manish, we can take a break now. All right, so let's start. All right, so the next sort of situation that we may have is about sale on approval basis. Okay, now sometimes there could be an arrangement between company and the customer that till the time the goods are not approved, so the goods are physically received, okay, and once the goods are physically received, so the customer will do the physical verification, you can do some sort of inspection, quality check also he'll do, means whether the goods are meeting the parameters which both the parties have agreed on, and after which customer will send the acceptance that yes, I accept these goods. Okay, now in this case, please remember, customer may have accepted the goods, sorry, may have received the goods, but acceptance may take some time. But the arrangement between them is such that only when the goods are approved or accepted by the customer, that is when the risk and reward gets transferred to the customer. So therefore, when do you recognize revenue in such a case? When the goods are approved. Yeah. So let's take one example for this. XY sells goods worth rupees 5 lakh on 30th March X1 to FT under sale on approval basis. Now in this arrangement, FT can return the goods back to XY within next 3 months. XY cannot reasonably determine whether FT will give the acceptance of goods before the expiry of 3 months. Why? Because of course, during this period of 3 months, customer has got the time. Okay, so they can return. In this case, when should XY recognize revenue? Today or after expiry of 3 months? So it has to be after expiry of 3 months. But if let's suppose after 15 days, XY has given the acceptance or approval that yes, I am okay with this, I will not be returning these goods. So then it will be recognized after 15 days. Okay, yeah. But till the time that approval is not available or the time window for the approval is not available, you cannot recognize it. After the expiry of 3 months, is XY required to wait for the approval? No. Why? Because after that, that approval doesn't matter. That time window of approval is gone. So if FT reaches out to XY, let's suppose in the 4th month, that I want to return or I do not approve this. So will that be relevant? No. Why? Because that window is for 3 months only. After 3 months, that is implied. Okay. So after 3 months, therefore, revenue will automatically get recognized. Clear? Now, similar to this arrangement could be the arrangement related to inspection, installation that we discussed now. That in some of the cases, customer may want to inspect the goods. Okay, may wait for its installation, maybe doing some quality check. Yeah, but every time, what do you need to check? You need to check the terms and conditions of the contract. Please remember that all of these things are dependent on the terms and conditions. In all of these examples that we have discussed so far, you would have understood that depending on the terms and conditions, there are different periods or there are different dates when the risk and reward is getting transferred. So the risk and reward is not necessarily getting transferred on the day when the invoice is raised or on the day when the goods are sold. or you can say sold means dispatched, or at times delivered also. Yeah. In all of these cases, it can be different. So one has to really understand the arrangement between two parties. Clear? Next, sale and repurchase arrangement. Now, what is the sale and repurchase arrangement? You can say it's a kind of financing arrangement. Financing means you can say it's a kind of loan arrangement. Okay. So let us just try to understand this. Say on 1st of January, so I'm using the same example. KJ sells goods to TH. Five lakhs. Okay, goods are sold. At the same time, what these two parties have done, KJ has agreed to repurchase these goods back from TH. Okay, on 31st March. So on 1st of January 2000x1, this transaction has been executed. Okay, this arrangement is there, but this transaction has been executed. On the same date, on 1st of January itself, these two parties have also entered into an arrangement. Now, what is the arrangement? That KJ will purchase the same goods from TH at the rate 6 lakhs. Now you may be thinking, but sir, why there is a need to purchase back when these are sold? See, these will not be purchased today. These will be purchased on 31st March 2000x1. Now the question arises then, sir, why there is a need? So let's understand. Let's suppose KJ has got some goods today. Okay. What is the value of goods? 5 lakhs. And KJ needs some funds. Funds means KJ needs money. So one way is KJ will go to a bank. Okay, will give this inventory on mortgage. Okay, or again, that's one way of borrowing the funds. Another way is this arrangement which we just discussed. That in a way, by selling these goods today, AJ will get 5 lakhs, right? AJ needs this money for next 3 months. So AJ will use this money for next 3 months. Yeah. And then will repay to TH along with interest. Now you may be thinking, but sir, where is the interest? So this 6 lakhs, the amount which they have agreed. Okay. Yeah. So this variant of 1 lakh in a way is what? That variant of 1 lakh in a way is what? That is nothing but a finance cost, or you can say a kind of interest cost. Okay. Yeah. So that's why when you have this sale and repurchase arrangement. Now, please remember sale and repurchase arrangement taking place at the same time. Now, that is important. Huh? This is taking place at the same time. That is what you call as a borrowing arrangement or a funding arrangement also. Okay. So in this case, what should be the accounting? So let's look at the accounting as to how this should be recorded by KJ. Because for KJ, we need to find out whether there is a sale or not. So on 1st January X1, when KJ has transferred the goods to TH. Can we say it's a sale? Answer is no. You don't call it as a sale. Why? Because today we know the goods have to come back. So there's no transfer of risk and reward. And you may be thinking, but sir, physically the goods have been transferred, invoice has been raised. All of these things do not matter. Because you need to understand that in substance, what has happened? In substance, there is no sale, there is no purchase. In substance, it is nothing but a kind of loan which KJ has taken from TH. So that's why, how do you record it as? As a loan. As a loan, right? So how do you record this? Record this as a loan. Bank debit to loan, to borrowing. Okay, on 1st January. Then on 31st March, what will happen? This loan will be repaid along with interest. Yeah, 1 lakh is nothing but the interest on this. So that's why interest will be booked first of all, and then the loan along with the interest will be paid on 31st of March. Clear on this? Everyone clear? Any questions if you have on this? Over to you. Any questions on this? No? Sure? Okay, I think Shiv has a query. Yes, Shiv? Yes, Shiv? Please go ahead.
Sir, on 31st March, why Messrs. TH will record make entry to pay by bank because he will deliver goods.
See, that's similar to what KJ has done. On 1st of January, did KJ record any sale?
That was, sir, that was loan.
No, that was loan. And then on 31st of March, it's a repayment of loan. It's one and the same thing.
Then what about, sir, sales of goods?
Sale of goods is not there. That's what you need to understand, that in this arrangement, there's no sale, there's no purchase. It's a kind of loan. You'll have to treat it like a loan. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So if you look at the legal form, it appears to be sale and purchase. But if you look at the substance, it's not sale and purchase, it's a borrowing. Yeah. You would have covered this concept of substance over legal form. Remember this?
Yes, sir.
That you need to apply here. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. Any more questions? Any more questions? Anyone else? Yes, Charandeep. I understand Somya has a query. Yes, Somya. Charandeep, Somya, if you can just speak up, please, quickly. What's your query?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
If KJ fails to pay on 31st March,
Sorry, you are not audible. Can you speak a bit louder?
if KJ fails to pay on 31st March,
Sorry?
if KJ fails to pay on 31st March,
Then it will be a bad debt. So a provision will have to be created in the books of TH. Okay, for
in the
TH,
book
it's
of,
a receivable. In the books of KJ, it's a payable. Okay.
okay, sir.
Right. Okay, so then I think Somya had a query. Yes, Somya, please go ahead. Somya? Okay. Anyone else? Any more queries? Prem, I understand you have a query. Prem, you have a query? I think Rohan wants to speak. Yes, Rohan. Have you raised hands? If you can just raise hand, I think Manish will unmute you.
Sir, in case of sale on approval basis,
You are not audible.
hello.
Yeah, please speak a bit louder.
Sir, in case of sale on approval basis,
Yes,
you you told that after the expiry of the uh,
period.
month period for approval,
Right,
it will be assumed that the goods are approved.
right.
But don't you think that this is violating the prudence concept?
So, what is the violation of prudence in this?
Sir, you are recognizing revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, it should be considered as loss, and we should assume that goods are rejected
No, but why should we assume that?
because, as per prudence concept.
No, so prudence requires you to book the loss unnecessarily. Is it?
No, sir, you are recording gain, na. So that is
Now,
not
let me just take
as
up
per.
one example, huh, just to discuss the point. So, say on 11th June, goods are sold. Fine.
Yes, sir.
And let's suppose a period of 3 months is given to the customer. That within 3 months you approve. Okay. Otherwise, we'll consider it as deemed approval.
Yes,
So,
sir.
what is the date then? July, August, September. Okay. 11th September is the period given to him. Now, you are saying, let's be prudent. That's your point. Okay. So, now considering that concept of prudence, entity waited for 3 months. Entity didn't recognize the revenue on 11th June. Entity waited for 3 months. Okay. So is that prudent? Yes, that's prudence. Now you are saying that on 11th September, there's nothing from the customer. Okay. Customer is silent on this. He didn't respond, whether approval or not. But the period is over. So contractually, will the customer be now required to pay? Answer is yes. Answer is yes. So now if you go by the prudence, so should we wait for the acceptance of the customer unnecessarily, which is implied? Because as per the arrangement, when two parties have agreed that if I don't respond within 3 months, you consider it uh, that it's a deemed approval, then should we still go by that? That's not prudence. Clear on this? Yeah. And that's not how things practically also work. Okay. Of course, theoretically, you can't do that. But practically, again, otherwise, what will happen? An entity will just keep track of, whether these approvals are received or not. And that's why you have this arrangement in place. Otherwise, what is the purpose of keeping a period on this? Yes or no? And otherwise, this entity may not be able to recognize revenue ever. Let's suppose that acceptance is not received. Okay, that's not prudence. Clear?
Okay, sir.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, Somya. Yes, Somya. Yes, Somya. I think Somya has raised hand. Manish. Somya, please pick up. Huh? Do you have a query? Somya, waiting for you. Quickly. No, so Soumya, you are already unmuted, huh? So you can speak up. Don't try to unmute. It's done. You can speak up. Fast, please. I think there's some technical glitch. No worries. Huh? Anybody else? Anyone else? No? All right. So let's move further. Huh? Then I think Ishan has a query. Ishan is asking, sir, TH will record is as a... Yeah, so for TH, it's a receivable. It's like a loan given to KJ. So that's how TH will record this. Okay, Ishan. For TH, it's a receivable. For KJ, it's a payable. TH, it's a receivable. Yeah, so it's mirror entry, which they will pass. Okay, now moving further. If you look at the arrangements in relation to sales, okay, some of the things are very common in the sales invoices. What are those? Trade discounts, etc. So do they form part of revenue? No. Okay, so all of these trade discounts, etc., they do not form part of revenue. They are reduced from the revenue itself. And generally, that's how you see the invoice also. Okay, next. Next is about cash discount. What is a cash discount? Say on 11th June, A Limited recognized revenue. A Limited sold some goods and recorded sales. Okay. Now in this case, A Limited has an arrangement with the customer. What is the arrangement? To make the payment within 3 months. Okay, so by 11th September, customer is required to pay. Okay, so this you can say is the due date of payment. Right? This is also the credit period. So there is a credit period of 3 months in this case. Okay. Now, in this arrangement, A Limited has also offered to the customer that if you make the payment before the due date, means if you make the payment any time over here, then there will be a discount. What is the meaning of discount? Let's suppose A Limited sold goods worth rupees 1 lakh. Okay. So for early payment, depending on how early it is, discount amount will be given. So let's suppose if the customer pays on say 15th of July, so the customer gets a discount of 5,000. Okay. Now, let's understand the accounting entry, assuming the customer makes the payment on 15th of July. Can you tell me what is the accounting entry that will be passed on 11th June? Over to you. What is the accounting entry that A Limited will pass on 11th June? Over to you quickly. Very good. Charandeep says debtor debit to sales. And it will be full amount. I think Almaz, Rohan, they have the same answer. Okay, it's 1 lakh. 1 lakh. Correct. Now, due date for this payment was 11th September, but on 15th July, entire payment has been received. Okay, so the customer is required to pay 1 lakh, but customer will get a discount of 5,000. So that's why, what is the amount customer will pay? 95,000. Okay, balance of customer will become 0. So where do you take this remaining 5,000? This is recorded as expense, cash discount. So where do you take it? P&L. This is recorded as an expense. Clear? So cash discount you will not reduce from revenue. Cash discount you will reduce from, cash discount you will record as expense. Okay, clear everyone? Simple. Any questions if you have? Yeah, sure. Clear? Quickly, yeah, everyone clear? All right, so now let's move further. Okay, so we have got one more situation and we'll just try to understand that with the help of an example. Okay, that's in respect of consignment sale. Now, what is a consignment sale? We'll just try to discuss that with the help of this example only. In the year X1, X2, XYZ supplied goods on consignment basis to ABC. Okay, XYZ has supplied goods to ABC. ABC is a retail outlet worth rupees 10 lakhs. As per the terms, ABC will only pay XYZ for the goods which are sold by ABC to the end customer. Rest of the goods can be returned back to XYZ and ABC will not have any further liability for these goods. Okay. Now, during the year X1, X2, ABC has sold goods worth rupees 5,50,000 only, and rest of the goods are still lying with ABC, which may be sold next year. Advise: how should XYZ recognize revenue for the period X1, X2? Okay, so if you have understood, it's great. If you have not understood, I'll just try to put this in the form of a chart. Okay, and this needs to be answered by you, and you will just need to apply the same concept of risk and reward. Okay, so we are looking at 2 financial years in a way. So this is 2000 X1, X2, and then we have X2, X3. Let's suppose at the beginning of X1, XYZ has supplied goods to ABC. What is the value of that? 10 lakhs. Out of these 10 lakhs, ABC has been able to sell 5.5 lakhs worth of goods. So that means goods amounting to 4.5 lakhs are unsold at the year end. So this is 31st March X2. Okay, so these goods are unsold. Yeah, of course, if these are unsold, they are expected to be sold in the next year. Now, what happens in the next year? We are not bothered about it. And we are not bothered about the accounting requirement of ABC. We are only looking at the accounting requirement of XYZ. So your thoughts, what do you think? What should XYZ do in X1, X2? Over to you quickly. What is your thought? In X1, X2, how should XYZ recognize revenue? How much amount should be recognized as revenue? Charandeep says record 5.5 lakhs. Ishan says record 5.5 lakhs. Soumya says 5.5 lakhs. Can you tell me why 5.5 lakhs? Some of you are saying 5.5. Can you tell me why? Why not 10 lakhs? Because if you look at XYZ, 10 lakhs worth of goods are sold. Ishan says based on an agreement. No, what is the meaning of based on agreement? You need to elaborate. Julie says only 5.5 as that much is sold to the third party. So how does it matter? Soumya says because only 5.5 is sold to the customers at the end. So how does it matter? Can you tell me? How does it matter? Charandeep says no liability for the rest of the goods which are unsold. Okay, no liability on whose part? Asta says only 5.5 lakhs should be recorded as revenue, as risk and reward is not shifted for 4.5 lakhs because this much can be returned. Very good. Yeah. So now if you look at this arrangement, okay, technically if you just go by the words, this is what you call as consignment sale. Okay. So if you have to name this, you will call it as a consignment sale. What is the meaning of consignment? You can say XYZ has given a consignment to ABC. Consignment is worth of 10 lakhs. Can we say that this consignment is a sale? We can, provided we can establish transfer of significant risk and reward. So let's understand. The arrangement between ABC and XYZ is very clear. What is that? Only when ABC will be able to sell this to the end customer, something that you see in case of retail outlets. Okay, what will happen? Retail outlets will have a lot of goods. So the goods which they will be able to sell to the end customer, they will say it's done. And only in respect of that much portion, retail outlet will pay to XYZ. Otherwise not. Otherwise not. Which means for this portion, 4.5 lakhs, if this remains unsold, who is responsible for this? ABC. Can we say that? No. If we say that, then of course there's a transfer of risk and reward. Okay, in the given case, it's not. Why? Because ABC is not required to make the payment for this. Further, if ABC is not able to sell, ABC can also return all of these goods to XYZ. So that's why, as far as this portion is concerned, can we say risk and reward related to 4.5 lakh has been passed on to ABC? Answer is no. Answer is no. Risk and reward has not been transferred in relation to this. Okay, so that's why, how will XYZ record this as? XYZ will record the revenue amounting to 5.5 lakhs. And 4.5 lakhs is what? That's only a stock transfer. Okay. That's only a stock transfer. Okay. That's not a sale. Okay. Stock transfer means stock has been transferred. Sale has not occurred. Revenue will not be recognized. Clear? Clear on this? Yeah. So this is what you call as consignment sale. Okay. Clear on this? Any questions, any doubts that you may have, please let me know. Over to you. Quickly. Any questions, any doubt that you may have, please let me know. Then we'll look at some more examples. Any questions? Rohan is asking, sir, inspection scenario. What is the meaning of inspection scenario? Inspection repeat. Yeah, sure. So inspection means, okay, so let me just again give you an example for that. Just a minute, let me just go back to that. For 11th June, ABC sold goods to XYZ. Okay. Now, what is the arrangement between ABC and XYZ? That once the goods are sold and received by XYZ, let's suppose on the same date, goods are received by XYZ. XYZ will do some inspection, okay, quality check. So he'll just ensure that goods meet the parameters which have been specified by XYZ only. Let's suppose that will take a day, 2, 3 days, okay, depending on again different arrangements that they may have. Let's suppose it will take XYZ 2 days. Okay, on 13th June, inspection will be completed. So if the goods are fine, XYZ will accept. If there is any problem, XYZ will return. So in this case, Rohan, can you tell me when should ABC recognize revenue? On 11th June or 13th June? Rohan, over to you. When should ABC recognize revenue? You're saying 13th June? Yeah. So I think you have yourself answered this. Okay. Asta, what's your query? Can you please go ahead? Please pick up. What's your query? I understand your query. Yes, Asta.
Sir, in previous question and consignment, we will record the revenue if it is transferred to ABC. Risk and reward if transferred to ABC, we will record the revenue.
Yes, but in such a case, we will not be calling it as a consignment then. Okay, that will not remain a consignment anymore. That will become a sale. Okay, consignment is the one wherein the risk and reward is not transferred. So you can say this term is generally associated with this understanding.
Even if payment is not made.
As I told you, we are not required to follow cash basis of account. So payment is received or not. Does it matter?
No.
So that's not relevant. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
All right. Any more questions? Any more questions? Anyone else? I think Ishan, you have a query. Yes, Ishan, please go ahead. What's your query? Yes, Ishan.
No, sir, I just want to ask, like, ultimately in all the cases, we just have to see that risk and rewards are transferred or not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we discussed. Okay, for revenue recognition, there are broadly 2 criteria. In fact, it's primarily one. That is about transfer of risk and reward. All of these situations are what? They are nothing but the examples we have been discussing. Just to get on to the same concept as to when the risk and reward gets transferred. Criteria is largely one. Okay, or you can say broadly one. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure. I can also see other participants who have raised hands. Let me just quickly check who is left. I understand, Shiv, you have a query? Yes, Shiv? Shiv, you have a query?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Shiv.
Sir, if in term and condition, if retain after inspection sale will be considered, then only we will record sale on 13 June. Otherwise, on 11 June, right?
You tell me, when should the sale be recorded?
But sir, I think if in term and condition written, we will consider sale on after inspection of goods, then only 30 June, otherwise 11 June.
No. So it's not about thoughts. Let's be very clear. You tell me in this situation, when is the risk and reward getting transferred to XYZ? 11th or 13th?
13 June.
13th June. Then obviously on 13th, revenue has to be recognized. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you need to be confident this way that check what's the date when the risk and reward is getting transferred. So the day risk and reward is getting transferred, you'll recognize revenue. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sure. I can see Rohan has a query. Yes, Rohan. Yes, Rohan. Rohan, you have raised hand. Rohan.
Yes, sir.
Tell me,
Sir,
what's your query?
sir, in cash discount, you told the entry bank account debit 95, cash discount 5, and to debtor 100.
Right.
Sir, what would be the entry if it would be trade discount in case of cash discount?
See, in case it's a trade discount, then at the first place, you will not recognize revenue for 1 lakh. You will recognize revenue for 95,000 only.
Okay, from the starting only, no?
Yes. But that is reduced from the amount in the invoice itself. So if you look at any invoice, maybe if you come across any invoice, just try to, I think, pick up, say, invoices for some online purchases that you do. Okay, and just check if there is any trade discount specified. You will see the amount is reduced from the revenue only in the invoice itself. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So then I think we can just quickly look at one more example before we really wind up our discussion for today. Then I'll just move on to your queries again. Okay, so one more example we can just discuss. The board of directors decided on 31st March X2 to increase the sale price of certain items retrospectively from 1st January X2. In view of this price revision with effect from 1st January X2, company has to receive 15 lakhs from its customers in respect of sales made from 1st January X2 to 31st March X2. Accountant cannot make up his mind whether to include 15 lakhs in the sales for X1, X2 or not. Your thoughts. Your thoughts. How should this be recorded? How should this be recorded? Tell me quickly. Quickly, how should this be recorded? Over to you. Okay, so I can see this. Charandeep is saying, how can the company increase? So let's suppose the company has done and this is possible. Okay. Ron is saying recognize revenue for what period? X1, X2, is it? What about others? Quickly, tell me. Tell me, when do you recognize revenue and what will be the basis? So the basis also you need to specify. So if you recognize revenue, what will be the basis? Ron is saying increase revenue. Of course, if you recognize revenue will increase, no doubt. But what is the basis? Julie is saying this is not recorded as the actual amount is not received. So no. So do you mean to say that you will do cash basis of accounting? Is it? Julie. Then I think Smriti is saying, sir, the risk has been transferred. Assuming there's no uncertainty exists, will record 15 lakhs. Okay, so you are trying to say it's conditional. Okay, Charandeep is saying, so the consent is required. Okay, very good. Rohan is saying accrual basis. So Asta says, but the risk and reward is already transferred. So why to recognize revenue? So do we not recognize revenue for this 15 lakhs? Tell me. Tell me quickly. Quickly, yeah, everyone. So when do we recognize revenue? How do we recognize revenue in this case? Anyone else? All right, so let's try to understand this. Okay. So in the given situation, let's not think as to how can the company do this. Of course, if there is a question in front of you, then the company has done this. And does it practically happen? Yes, practically also it may happen. Now, in this case, what is going to be the concern? As far as risk and reward is concerned, there is no problem because it's in respect of those goods which have already been transferred. So can we say risk and reward is a problem as far as transfer of risk and reward is concerned? No, that's not a criteria anymore. Okay. So the only concern could be around the second criteria. Remember that second criteria, which is sometimes relevant. Okay. And what is that? That for this revenue to be recognized, for this 15 lakhs to be recognized, what do you need? You need this consent from the customer in a way. Okay. You need a clarity that this money will be received. Because if the company doesn't have the clarity, or you can say this uncertainty is there, then you can't recognize revenue. Yes or no? Yeah. So do we know from the facts of the question about this uncertainty? We don't. Okay. So that fact pattern is missing in the question. Yeah. So in such a scenario, what do? You'll have to specify. Yeah. So you'll have to just explain that this is what you need to look at. So in any of this situation, what will you do? You'll have to look at such a situation. Yes or no? You have to evaluate that whether to recognize revenue or not will be dependent on this another criteria. And what is that? About the collection. Okay. In this case, if the company is able to assess ultimate collection with reasonable certainty, only then the revenue will be recognized in X1, X2. But please remember, if you believe, then sir, let's not wait for the payment. No. See, reasonable certainty or to say that there is no significant uncertainty doesn't mean you'll jump onto cash basis of accounting. Okay. So there is a line in between. Yeah. So you have to be on accrual basis, but for this accrual basis, the criteria needs to be met. So you can't say that let's wait for the payment to be received and then recognize. No. You will have to get onto the situation when the significant uncertainty is gone. Okay. If the company is not reasonably certain on the collection, then can the company recognize that? No. Till the time it will remain, company can't recognize revenue as far as this 15 lakh is concerned. Okay. In such a case, it will be appropriate if let's suppose if this is not recognized. So it is appropriate to give a disclosure in the notes to accounts. Again, considering the amount involved. In this case, this amount appears to be reasonable. Okay. So that's why the solution has also specified that better to disclose this. Okay. Why? Because this is relevant for the users, for them to know that during the year, revenue amounting to 15 lakh could not be recognized because one of the criteria was not met. But this much payment you can always expect in the future years, okay? Because the company will try hard. Okay, if let's suppose a consent is missing, if let's suppose some sort of arrangement between the customers and the company is still going on, company has done the revision, but it's yet to be accepted, or maybe it's under discussion with the customers. So many a times company may come up with a policy and which is then communicated to the customer, and the customer may then accept it, which could take a period of time. So let's wait for that. Okay. Yeah. So there are two situations which are possible. One, you have no significant uncertainty. In that case, you recognize revenue in the same year. Second, when you have significant uncertainty, then of course you can't recognize, you'll have to wait. If you wait, then what will happen? You will move on to the next year. Okay, you will move on to the next year. Clear on this? Everyone, clear on this? Any questions? Okay, then I think Charandeep is clear. Smriti is clear. Any questions, any doubts that you may have? Let's discuss that, because I think we are through. Okay, so we are through. And as far as this revenue recognition AS9 is concerned, I think we have discussed about that for today. It's not yet done. So please remember that in the next session, we are going to continue on this. Okay, there are some more aspects around it. There are some more small concepts around it that we are going to cover, and we'll pick up some more examples in the next session. Now what we can do is we can just move on to your queries. Okay, otherwise, if you don't have any query, you can just feel free to log out. I can see one query coming from Astha, one from Ishan. Yes, I think let's go one by one. Astha, what's your query?
Sir, I have query on AS22.
Okay, tell me what's your query?
Sir, last question of back exercise of study mat.
Okay, so do you want me to open the document? Just give me a minute. Last question, huh?
Yes, sir. Question number 9.
Question number 9. Okay, yeah, so I've opened this question. It appears to be a big one. So I would appreciate if you can just explain your query instead of discussing this full question. Otherwise, it will become too big for us to discuss. So if you have a specific query, then I think it's better. Otherwise, you can just send me your query. I'll have to go through that, and then I can come back to you in the next session.
Sir, in this question, the taxable income is recorded as 4 crores as capital gain. But in accounting income, it is being deducted from the cost of investment itself.
Okay.
The full amount within profit also. So why it
Okay.
is timing difference?
Why it is timing difference? Because the accounting treatment which has been done, okay, and basis which the gain or loss has been computed is not in line with what income tax has done. Because if you reduce that from the cost of the investment, then I think you are not generating any gain or loss in that particular year. That seems to be the case on the basis of what you have explained. You can just go back to this and recheck. And in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll just also make a note of this. I'll also go through this, okay, in terms of its calculation and come back to you. Okay. But have you understood that this accounting treatment is different from
Sir,
what
this is
income
a
tax?
difference, but not to be a timing difference.
Why it's not a timing difference?
Sir, how it could be reversed?
See,
In future.
today, okay, so now let's suppose cost of investment has been reduced today, right? So in the books, when you have reduced the cost of investment, so this investment will come to an end at some point of time or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. As per income tax, if you look at, they have already made it 0. In the books, it will become 0. Maybe after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, it has to come to an end. So that's why it's a timing difference. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Conceptually, you've understood.
Yes,
Why
sir,
it's
because
timing
it is a
difference.
capital gain, so it will be get reduced automatically.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, sir. Sir, in previous questions, it has been classified that items disallowed for tax purposes in 21-22 but allowed in 22-23.
No, so if you speak very specifically on this question in terms of years, that's what I told you, that I'll have to just go back to this question, read this because it's a big one. Yeah, and then come back to you. Okay, so
Okay,
I'll
sir.
just look at this year wise and I'll go through the complete question later on. And in the next session, we can then discuss this in detail. Huh?
Okay, sir. Sir, here the year is another question is there. Year is 22-23.
Year is means in which question you are talking about?
Sir, accounting year is 22-23.
No, are you talking about the same question?
No, no, sir.
Which one?
सर previous years में आया हुआ ये वाला question.
See, till the time I don't look at the question, very difficult to uh, speak on anything. So either you send me the question or give me the reference of that question.
Okay, sir. Where to send, sir, in group?
Yeah, you can no, you can send it over here or give me the reference. I'll have to pick it up.
Sir, 2023 November question is this.
Okay, November 23. Which question is this?
So question number is not given here.
Okay, that's on AS 22, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll just try to find out. Otherwise, you can send it.
Okay, sir.
All right. Any more questions?
No, sir.
All right. I think Ishan, you have a query? Yes, Ishan.
Sir, I have a query regarding AS11.
Okay.
So there is a concept of classification of foreign operation. I mean reclassification. So
Right.
how do we do that?
See, generally that reclassification is not done. It's a concept though. Okay, foreign operations, as we discussed, there are two types. Okay, so one is integral and second is non-integral, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you understand both of them.
Yes, sir.
What is integral, what is non-integral. Now, the moment there is some change in understanding on the basis of which you assess as to whether it is integral or non-integral, that is when you will reclassify. Now, how will that understanding change? That will change depending on the structuring. Understand HO or
Yes.
parent, which could be there. Huh? So they may bring in the structuring, which could result into this reclassification, or maybe they are just trying to, maybe making some of the transactions or maybe giving some of the additional powers to the foreign operation, which can again bring in this sort of reclassification. So the whole idea is, if let's suppose you are calling it as integral today,
Yes,
and
sir.
if you believe that in some period of time or maybe in the next few years, it's more of like non-integral. It has got autonomy. Okay, it's not dependent on the parent anymore. Okay, its transactions are very few with the parent. That's the criteria. So I'm just talking about the criteria. And as far as cash flows are concerned, it's maintaining its own cash flows. So in such a case, it's moving more in the direction of non-integral. So that's why you'll consider reclassifying this from integral to non-integral. But let me just also tell you that this is rare. Practically, I have never seen this. Though conceptually it's there, so you can always have this situation, but practically this is rare.
Sir, so if it changes, so we will record the items as per like monetary items and non-monetary items as per the classification that is given.
No, no. So that is again dependent on the type of classification it is there. Let's
So
suppose
like
today you are recording it as integral.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's suppose later on it becomes non-integral. Now non-integral, we understand all the assets and liabilities you will sort of, restate,
Yes, sir.
and that too for the purposes of consolidation generally. Yeah. But when it comes to integral, so for integral, you'll not do it for all. Why? Because integral is more of the part of the entity itself.
Yes,
So
sir.
your basis of this conversion from this foreign currency to the reporting currency will accordingly change. Now, whether it is moving from integral to non-integral or non-integral to integral. So that's how you will be looking at it.
So, sir, where the differences will be recorded, like in the foreign difference account, foreign currency
No,
difference.
so if let's suppose you have got FCTR in case of this non-integral, then you take out the FCTR because FCTR is not relevant anymore. You'll park it to the reserves. But if let's suppose you have integral, which is now becoming non-integral, then you will start bringing in FCTR because FCTR will now be
Yes.
required. Okay, so that's how
Yes.
we'll have to go about.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sure. Rohan is asking any homework. Yes, of course. Your homework is your revision. Huh? So this revision you need to do. Why? Because see this standard AS9 is on revenue recognition. It's a very important standard. And I'm not saying only theoretically for your examination purposes, but practically also. You will find this standard to be very important. Okay, so that's why it's important for you to revise, maybe come up with more queries when you revise that. Further, because we are going to continue on this, and the next standard that we pick up will again be a continuation of revenue recognition AS7. So that's why it will help you. Okay, so that's the homework I'll say. Okay, sure. So Asta have sent me one more point. Asta, can you just please send me the query box? Once again, the pointers. Okay, so at one place, so I'll make a note of your queries. Okay, anyone else in the meantime? Any more queries if you have? Anyone else? Any more queries? No? Are we through? All right. So then I think we can just close this session then. Okay. Thanks everyone for your time and for this wonderful participation once again. Thanks so much. I think Asta, I've got this. Yeah. So it's illustration 2, second para. That's on employee benefit, correct? All right. Okay. Thanks everyone. Manish, I think we can close this now. Yeah.